Okay, this cinematic kicks off the next 3 expansions. Thing is, it rests atop a whole bunch of background lore, and I know that loads of people probably feel out of the loop, so I thought, what better way to make sense of things for everyone than to use this cinematic? That's what we're doing today. First though, could I ask you for a quick hand? It's really simple. Could you press the subscribe button if you would like to hang around through War Within? The reason I say that is because it gives the YouTube algorithm a good signal, and that helps get our content out to more people. That, of course, helps me pay the team behind all that we do, and that means I can get you more videos, and I can get you better videos. It really helps, and it just takes a sec. And with that said, let's begin with Azeroth from then to now. We begin with a flicker of light. And this isn't a render of a star forming, it's a visualization of Azeroth's world soul. Now, not all planets in this universe have a world soul. Azeroth is one that does. Arcus is another world that does. It was the Draenei homeworld. Draenor, though, the Orcish homeworld, it didn't have a world soul. So some do and some don't. And for the longest time, we believed that world souls were the first stage of the Titan's life cycle. The Titans being these guys. They were kind of gods to many, a sort of maker-progenitor race of beings. Now, some of the modern lore calls that into question. My take is a little bit more that a world soul is like Eevee in Pokemon. What the Eevee will evolve into basically depends on who gets to it first and what they do. And in the case of Warcraft and Azeroth, the old gods got there first. The old gods, though, were defeated and imprisoned by the Titans who found Azeroth, defeated them, and then they built loads of machines into the crust of the planet, all to protect the World Soul. And of course, I would speculate to infuse her with their magic so that one day she'll turn into a Titan just like them. Now, the most important thing for you to know is that Azeroth is the most powerful world soul in existence, and because of that, everybody wants to claim it. The old gods craved its power, the Titans kicked the old gods out, and the Titans thought that she is so powerful that if they can just wake her up, all their problems will be solved. Now, another group that have been trying for a long time to get to Azeroth, of course, were, the Burning Legion, led by Sargeras. Sargeras is basically a doom-pilled titan. He decided that his mates were completely going about things the wrong way, and he thought that Azeroth is actually so powerful that if the real bad guys, like the Void or whatever, get to her, it'll be the end of everything. And through the lore, there are hints that other powerful beings have wanted at least a foothold on Azeroth, say the Light, say Life, and another one of those beings is Xal'atath, the character who is narrating this cinematic. She wants the World Soul, and as she sort of says at the end, it seems that she's tried to make a move on the World Soul before. Her voiceover offers commentary over clips of past Warcraft expansions, and as she does that, we see the World Soul grow from a faint glimmer to a concentrated sphere of energy. Each time, its heart beats stronger. Essentially, as World of Warcraft's story is played out, we have got stronger, and Azeroth has slowly woken up. So here's the lowdown on that. All of those Titan machines around the planet, we're told, are keeping her healthy. They are regulating her rhythms and bolstering her form. Of course, we would learn much through expansions like Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm. Those saws delve into those Titan facilities and machines, but where this story truly kicks off is Legion, when Sargeras ended up being defeated, but just before he was put into prison, he stabbed the world. Likely out of spite, but an NPC would later tell us that somebody as powerful and wise as he would not strike out at random, that he would strike with purpose. So let's examine why he stabbed the planet where he did. His blade landed in Silithus, and that is right beside multiple hotspots of Titan construction. We've got Ungoro, that is a living laboratory. We have Anchorage, an old god containment facility, and Uldum. It houses many installations vital to the day-to-day running and, of course, big protection of the World Soul. And that's just above ground, because below ground lies the likes of the Chamber of the Heart. And Sargeras' blade landed right on top of that chamber. And from that chamber, basically, lots of the running and the maintenance of the World Soul happens. It seems to be a very, very top secret control room. Of course, during Battle for Azeroth, we mended that facility, and the question is, did that change something? Our mending of the facility or Sargeras' damaging of it? Did that all set events into motion that could not be undone? Well, Another piece of this puzzle is Kazalgar. Kazalgar, which is where we go in the next expansion, is just off the coast of where Sargeras' blade landed, and in Kazalgar is a place called the Coreway. The Coreway leads straight to the World Soul. Putting all of this together then, basically, Sargeras hit right where it would disrupt the Titan's most important machines the most. He absolutely struck with intent. Now, right after the Battle for Azeroth expansion, we headed to the Shadowlands. Honestly, it was a pretty shit time. Not many of us had fun, but it did end with Zovaal, the silly big bad of that expansion, blasting a whole bunch of energy into Azeroth through Icecrown Citadel's Forge of Souls. Surely that's got to be painful. Surely that's got to wake you up or do something. Now, unfortunately, the trailer doesn't give us regular enough cutaways to the World Soul, but you can see that before Legion, she was tiny and weak. After Shadowlands, she is far more powerful. Her heart beats with a greater intensity, right as we cut to the Dragonflight expansion. By Dragonflight, Azeroth had begun to wake up. That's seen in the cinematic, as represented by the strange, shimmering blue energy that's beneath the waves. I mean, hell, our first zone is called The Waking Shore. The 4th season of Dragonflight is called Awakened. So the idea that the World Soul is waking up is absolutely there. Now, during the Dragonflight expansion, we learned that there is loads more to the Titans than we had been told. A lot of speculations from us loreheads were confirmed, and we basically learned that the Titans' planetary rulers had been infusing dragon eggs with their own type of magic. And that, of course, got all of our brains spinning. Back in Legion and Shadowlands, we saw that Argus, also a Titan World Soul, was infused with death magic, and that death magic changed his form. So, if the form of dragons can be changed by pumping magic into their eggs through the halls of infusion, and we saw that putting death magic into Argus changed what he would be, then what are all of those machines doing to Azeroth herself? Are they just blasting her with Titan magic? Now, that expansion saw us battle these guys, the Incarnates, and they essentially are anti-Titan terrorists. They saw all of this external meddling, and they just got really pissed off about it. And they really did actually have a point. Problem is, they went too far, they did bad stuff a long time ago, and for that, they were locked up. And they were locked up in these. Now, take a look at this sphere. Now take a look at the logo of World of Warcraft: The Last Titan, which is the 3rd part in this current trilogy of expansions that begins with The War Within. You can see that the logo of that expansion looks just like the prison that the Incarnates were kept in. And that sure does hint to us that the Titans were doing maybe a little bit more than just helping Azeroth. Anyhow, this awakening would slowly continue. We defeated Sargeras, a guy who wanted to be a bit like his big daddy Deathwing, and got misled big time. And we also beat Farak, who basically went on a total power bender. And along the way, we chased their leader Iridikron back in time. And we lost. I mean, sure, we stopped the timeline from being broken, which was good, but in doing so, he was able to use a special artifact that he had nabbed from one of Deathwing's laboratories to suck up the essence of Galakrond. And then he hopped away through a portal. And in that portal, we saw a silhouette. And being loreheads, we immediately thought, hang on a second, that silhouette is Xal'atath, who of course is narrating this trailer. And if you're not sure about the Galakrond thing, look, basically a very long time ago, a dragon seemed to get some spooky void essence in him, and that just meant that he kept on eating, and eating, and eating, and eating, until he became this city-sized, horrific zombie dragon, and it was a really big threat. So, it was a danger. It's not really relevant now, but the power that was inside Galakrond has been taken by one of our characters and will likely play a major role in The War Within, and that's really all you need to know. Now, by the end of the Dragonflight expansion, we had defeated Farak. We established a new city for the Night Elves to live in, and the dragons got their power back, but with a twist. You see, at the start of Dragonflight, the dragons did all sorts of things to try and get their original powers back. And those powers have been granted to them by the Titans a very long time ago, basically as a reward for helping defeat Galakrond. But the thing is, they failed, and they did not get their powers back. But by the end of the expansion, they did get their power back. It seems, though, that their power actually came from Azeroth, through the World Soul herself, likely via a Mirdrasil, which is basically a very special cool tree that we planted. And as far as we know, that's basically the only time Azeroth has, well, actually done something so directly that we've noticed, which is pretty neat. So, we had won. Farak was defeated. all was well, but a few characters did remember that Iridikron escaped through a portal, and this word Harbinger kept on coming up. Now that Harbinger turned out to be Xal'atath, and in the final patch of Dragonflight, Xal'atath basically ran rings around us. So, by this point in this video, you're now caught up to the state of things as of 1 minute and 42 seconds into the new cinematic. The next thing I'm going to do is clear up the character of Xal'atath in case there's any confusion there, and then we'll tear into some more of the new juicy stuff. First things first, if you want the full story of Xal'atath, check out this video, I think you'll love it. As a TLDR for the sake of this one though, she, a long time ago, was the Harbinger of Dimensius, and Dimensius is a thing called a Void Lord. Very spooky, very bad, very dangerous. Now it seems that way back in the day, Xal'atath was trying to do things, ostensibly for her boss Dimensius, but stuff went sideways. She ended up seemingly being defeated, and she was stuck in a dagger. But not all was lost. Xal'atath, super intelligent, and she could whisper and manipulate through the dagger. And over an absurd amount of time, she racked up quite the kill streak. This one may not mean anything to you, but it's kind of big. The Akir Troll War, she kind of started that whole thing. The whole deal with the Dark Iron Dwarves kind of going half mad and ruining the Wildhammer Dwarf city of Grimbatal. Xal'atath had a major role to play in that. She's done a lot, but the core thing is that we came to know her in the Legion expansion, where she was the Shadow Priest's artifact weapon and actually a great ally. And that might surprise you because now she's a villain, but the way it works is this. Xal'atath is a character who wants to claim the World Soul. But, of course, the leader of the Burning Legion, Sargeras, he thinks the World Soul is so powerful that if anybody claims it, it will basically be game over, so he wanted to destroy Azeroth. So, of course, Xal'atath teamed up with us because, well, if the planet is destroyed, we both lose. Even though, of course, beyond the point of defeating Sargeras, we have totally different goals to Xal'atath. Now, the next time we saw her was during BFA. She got herself mixed up into a conspiracy with Ashara and Sylvanas. She even briefly enlisted us to defeat a high elf who herself was following whispers. And that did kind of make me think, did Xal'atath shop around all the bodies out there, found the person with the body that she liked, then whispered to her, manipulated her over to Kulturas so that we could then kill her, meaning that Xal'atath could get slurped up into her body? And the answer to that question is yes, that is exactly what Xal'atath did, because if you're going to be evil, you may as well look resistible so that the masses are on their knees lapping up whatever you give them. And if what you degenerates say in the comments are anything to go by, it's absolutely working out for her. Anyway, Xal'atath cut a deal with N'Zoth, and then she hopped through a portal with her new body, and that was the last that we would see of her for years. Until, of course, we follow Iridikron back in time, and he goes through the portal, and we see that silhouette. Okay, so we've speed ran through the lore of the goddess here, you know what's up with Xal'atath. Let's talk about the future. Did you pay attention every time you saw the World Soul in the cinematic? Because if you did, you'll have noticed these tiny shimmers, and some people will say that these shimmers are purple, perhaps representing a slowly increasing element of void corruption within Azeroth. Perhaps a leftover from the old days where the old gods had dominated, something only being kept in check via the vast network of Titan machines. To other people, though, it might be more of a blue and kind of looks like Azerite. But anyway, that's always been a part of the World Soul. Then what we see that is clearly new is the deep blue-purple stuff circling in. For the longest time, you see, old gods meant fleshy purple tentacles with a bit of pink. Dragonflight, though, changed that. We saw that the higher forces of Void began to take on this deep, dark blue-purple, something that looks decidedly more cosmic. One that, of course, we most vividly saw portrayed in the Sarkareth boss room, and one that perfectly matches the magic that Xal'atath uses. In patch 10.2.7 Darkheart, we see even more of it, and we learn that the ethereal homeworld also had a World Soul, and that before it was assaulted by a Void Lord, it started giving people visions. Which is spooky, because if you saw the BlizzCon cinematic, you'll know that important people are getting strange visions. Then, hard countering the colors of the deep blue, spooky purple, an Earthen steps into frame. These are a new group of Earthen. They maintain something called the Coreway, that's a direct path to the World Soul, and it's likely one of the things that was disrupted by Sargeras' blade. In the cinematic, we see them man this brutal-looking machinery. They're toiling away to keep it all going and uphold their duty, but all is not well in their society, and if you want to sort of deep dive through that so you understand the new expansion, well, I've got a video, but the short version is some of them have stood by their original charge, but others, faced with their machinery, especially the stuff that retains their memories and refreshes their bodies, with all that stuff breaking down, they've kind of realized they've got an expiry date, and with that, they've decided to live it up like mortals and enjoy what time they have left. They're the first group that we meet whenever we start playing this expansion, and while we help them, we then bump into a group nobody expected. Humans! Albeit ones with slightly pointy ears. And into center stage steps Faerun Lothar. Okay, Lothar is a human surname that you might recognize if you played the Warcraft RTSs and know the old lore. So how the hell is one here? I mean, there's no other Lothars that we've seen going around Stormwind. The answer here is that while she is a Lothar, she is absolutely no close relation to any Lothar that we knew. That's because she's from a new group of humans, ones who left over 1,000 years ago from Arathor. There is a time in the ancient human lore of Warcraft, basically, where they had the sort of kingdom and empire of Arathor, and then from that they split into all the different groups that we see today, like Stormwind, and Kulturas, and Gilneas. What we've now learned is that a group of those also left Arathor, and they sailed away. And this is where it's cool. They left and miraculously sailed across what we now call the Forbidding Sea. A Titan Keeper would call that the Storming Sea, and probably for good reason. It's very stormy, and during Legion, whenever the likes of the Vindicar gave us a real good view of Azeroth, you'd always notice we could see our core continents, but everything else would just be masked in a sort of eternal storm. It seems, therefore, that these guys were able to get past that storm. We don't exactly know how they were able to do this, but if I was guessing, I would say it is something to do with their deep faith. You see, they were guided by a vision from the light. Like, these guys are 110% into their version of the Church of the Holy Light. Almost to the degree where it sounds a bit spooky. Anyway, maybe through some sort of intervention from a Naru or some powerful force of the light, they were able to make it across the sea. And across that sea, they found a continent. And on that continent, their civilization grew, and now it is seemingly a large empire. Over 1,000 years would pass, and then very recently, their emperor would see a vision of a falling star. So an expedition was sent following this. This expedition reached Khazalgar about a decade ago, but when they did, a flash of light blinded them. And when the survivors came to, they found they were no longer caught in a storm. They were in fact now underground, in a vast cavern lit by the crystal that was seen in the vision of their emperor. So, they've been down there for a while. Faerun Lothar is a member of that expedition. Her people are 100% for the light, they're also high-tech, they are very knowledgeable, and as we later find out, they don't exactly take kindly to those who don't share their worldview. That definitely has me think that in the War Within, yeah, we're working with them against a common enemy, but reading in between the lines, I think we might see some conflict ahead. As for Faerun, I can say I think she's fantastic so far from playing the beta, but I won't talk about that sort of spoiler thing now. Suffice to say though, they're a hardcore bunch. I mean, look what happens. She loses her arm, they install a socket, and now she can just attach a weapon on. After Faerun though, we see this. What the hell is it? A lot of people will be really confused because this being, doing its ritualistic dance, weaving vines about the place, hasn't really been talked about publicly by Blizzard that much. Don't worry, I've got the answers. She's a Haranir. They're an entirely new race. They are deeply aligned with nature, it seems, and we find them within Azj-Kahet, the fourth zone and the big Nerubian city that's at the bottom of Khazalgar's vast underground cave network. And she does look somewhere between a troll and a night elf. Maybe that means she's some sort of evolutionary midpoint, or maybe another branch of evolution altogether. My theory is this. Trolls who live near the Well of Eternity, which was rich in arcane magic, slowly turned into night elves. Well, what if other trolls, bathed in life magic, turn into the Haranir? And I say that because around this character, you can see, yes, the vines that she's weaving, but behind those, roots. Ancient roots. Now, these roots are a long story. They're one I've told in this video, but what you need to know is this. These are the roots of a tree that was planted using a branch of the mother tree from the Emerald Dream, which is basically to say, the tree of all trees. It was gifted by Elune, a goddess of life, to Aenar, the Titan called Life Binder. So I suppose from Mother Nature to Chief Gardener, anyway. Aenar's boss, her leader, Amenthul, destroyed it. Destroyed the new tree. He was furious. He saw this as just a weed that he couldn't control. Now, there is good reason to think that he's actually right, but again, I've done a whole other video on that. The rub, though, is these roots are of like the most raw, fundamental life energy. They're from a tree that basically is like the heart of nature in the universe, right? The most powerful life stuff. So perhaps when a group of trolls ventures upon these roots, they slowly evolve into Harnir. It's not a confirmed theory, it's just what I think so far. But anyway, many players do expect that they will become a future allied race. Let's move on though, because the cinematic is about to reach its climax. And hey, before you get funny ideas, remember, cool Void Elf Mum is actually a corpse inhabited by a millions-of-year-old dark horror being. But, you know, does look pretty cool, so everyone's been got. Now in this dialogue, we learn that Xal'atath has went for Azeroth before, seemingly she lost, now she's trying again. For me though, there's a big question here. Is she doing this as harbinger of a Void Lord, as she was in the past, or is she doing it for herself? Personally, I would say, listening to her vocal performance, well, I think she's doing it for herself. I mean, again, just listen to how she enunciates.
The world's soul, so long denied me, shall be mine.
I mean, come on, she is a millions-of-year-old indescribable entity, basically out of the brain of Lovecraft. So when her plan comes to fruition, as much as her cool new body is doing really good, you know, getting her all those spots in marketing, what will she want to become? Will she just want to give the power over to her master, or would she want to, perhaps, become the Void Lord, the Void Titan, whatever it may be, herself? I think that's one of the main drives of the expansion, and I do have a final tease from Holly. Holly is the executive producer of World of Warcraft, and of course, representing a 12+ rated product, she probably can't swear, but the good news is, I can swear for her. Responding to Taliesin and Evitel, wondering if Xal'atath will survive into midnight, Holly replied, "Fuck around and find out." So, yeah, I think she might live. And that's a sentiment that is shared by the guy I haven't brought up since I first mentioned him, Iridikron. Yes, the big rock dragon dude. Okay, he's the last piece of this puzzle, and he's actually the most simple. He doesn't care about anything I just said. All this guy wants is for Xal'atath to succeed so much that she forces the Titans to return to defend Azeroth so that he can kill him. Because he's got a grudge, he hates their guts, and he wants to kill him. That's all he's driven by. That's basically it. So don't expect to see Iridikron until The Last Titan, which is probably going to release sometime in 2028. Okay, I hope this video has helped you understand what's going on here. If you would like to dive a bit deeper, I've curated a playlist of our lore videos that are around topics that this video has mentioned and the videos that I've mentioned in this video. So if you just kind of want a place to go so you can drink in all the lore that's going to be relevant, check out that playlist. Anyway, I think you'll enjoy it, and it will appear on your screen as soon as my face disappears. So, thanks for watching, and go click the thing.